Hello Claire.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm very, very well, thank you.
So welcome to the show. Today, for those who are interested, we are doing a podcast interview with the lovely Claire, who's here. And now, for those who don't know Claire, who are you, what do you do, and kind of where did you get started in what you do?
Okay then, well, my name's Claire Pitcher. I'm one half of the owners of Live Escape Salisbury in the centre of Salisbury on Castle Street. So we both run the escape rooms together. We build them together, design them together, run them together. For anybody that doesn't know what an escape room is, it's basically an hour of fun for friends, family, team building, work colleagues, and you all have to work together to solve puzzles, look for clues, and escape the room in 60 minutes. So it's basically a good laugh that you can have with anybody that you know. And we first started here in 2017. Charlie was an engineer and designer, and I am still a journalist, but I do all the marketing and stuff for the escape room as well. And we just thought it would be a really good fit for us. He can build everything, I can help market it. It's a really fun thing to do. Doesn't really feel like a job, to be honest.
Yeah, the best kind of job, the one that doesn't feel like a job.
Indeed. So yeah, that's where we currently are.
How did you get started with the idea of building an escape room? Because for me, it's not really something which you just wake up. Well, I don't know, maybe you did, but I didn't just wake up in the morning and go, you know what I want to do for a job? I want to build an escape room.
No, it wasn't like that. It was very weird, actually. We were on a city break in Budapest with some friends, and a different friend of ours had said, "Oh, if you're going to Budapest, you need to go and try this experience." Forwarded us a link to. We didn't know really what it was. We hadn't obviously played an escape room before, but they'd been in Budapest and Hungary and Europe for a lot longer than they have here in the UK. So we booked it. The four of us went. It was a really good laugh. We didn't actually manage to get out in 60 minutes, but we had such a good time, we kind of became hooked on them really. And it was after that in the hotel in Budapest. My husband wanted to get out of his job. I was already a freelance, and we thought this is something that we can definitely do. This is something that we can build easily ourselves. And it's money for old rope. So once you've built a room, built all the puzzles, you just basically are hosting people, so it's not really that difficult to do once you've actually...
Yeah, once the hard work and the craft is done, yeah, exactly. I mean, is there like a big, you failed if you reach the 60 minutes? Like what happens if you reach the 60 minutes? I'm always curious to know, because I personally haven't done this game.
It depends from rooms to rooms, so what happens at the end of our game would be different to what happens at any other escape room.
Of course.
You have to try, most of the time you are locked in a room in some way, so it might be a padlock, it might be a safe lock or something. But actually in our room you can always get out for health and safety, so there's always a way out. But the end game is to open the door. In our game, everything goes a bit wrong at the end, it all goes a bit loud, there's a lot of sound effects, a lot of smoke machines, a lot of panic. So it's not scary, but it's kind of, you really feel sort of panicked at the end, and there's a lot of loud noise. But sometimes it can be a real gentle ending, or sometimes there can be no ending at all. It really does depend what experience you're at, and who the games masters are, and how it's run, and so on. So,
have you had like a favourite show or a favourite room that you've built? Because I know from the conversations we've had, you change the rooms as much as you can, and you try to tweak what the challenges are and that kind of thing. So have you had like a kind of a favourite set or a favourite rule or a favourite room that you've actually created?
Well, we've only actually created 2 rooms up to now. Okay. The first one, which is Spectre, which is over on Castle Street, has been there for 4 years and hasn't changed much at all, other than we adapted it to be able to accept 8 people rather than 6. Because usually the maximum is 6 players, and we were asked over and over and over if people could bring 8. And with team building, it's a lot better to have 8 people. But it's hard to accommodate that. We've got the space to accommodate that many, but our mission is to make people to play games all at the same time. So we don't want people standing around, we want people to be collaborating. we don't want people to feel they haven't contributed. So the only real change we've made over there is to add puzzles in to make sure that all 8 people are busy at all times. Obviously we've done an online escape room during lockdown. So we built an escape room in our dining room at home. So we turned it into a spaceship, and
fun.
we did an online avatar game during the first lockdown. So, but those are the only 2 games we've built, other than those that we're currently building here at the Cross Keys.
I wasn't gonna be the one to say that because I didn't know whether you wanted to cover it or not. But for me, I think, how did you because a lot of business owners are in the position where when the first lockdown happened, they were like, I can maybe talk for myself. Okay, my business is over. That's basically the first thought that came into my head. I was like, well, I can't do video production. I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. I mean, how was that kind of experience for you in the respect to, what you did and how you did it in that respect?
Obviously, like for so many other people, it was really scary because obviously we couldn't have teams come in, people couldn't be indoors. We had various times where we came out of lockdown, but there had to be obviously things in place like masks and hand washing that we were able to do no problem. But mostly we've been locked down, so we've been locked down since December, so it's been really strange not being able to host people. But it has given us time to build on the games that we're building now. It's given us a lot of free time to do that, which is great. But it wasn't too bad for us because we also did the online game, as I mentioned. That's what escape rooms were doing generally. There was a big explosion of print and play games and online avatar games where you actually steer me around via Zoom around the room.
Okay.
The padlocks, looking at things. So that was what the escape room industry did, is they diversified really, and it was really great to see, like so many other businesses, they went, right, we can't do this physically with people, so we're going to do something online, like lots of other businesses did. They went, restaurants went to takeaways and started providing food for different communities, and the escape room business basically said, right, let's all...
Right, what can we do? Yeah. What are we able to pivot to? What are we able to change to in that respect?
It won't go away. I think online escape rooms are here to stay, because it's great if you have friends and family over in Australia.
Yeah.
Anywhere really where you don't get to see them physically, you can actually go onto Zoom and now play a game together. So that was brilliant. So it wasn't too bad.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things where I think that a lot of people are in the position where they had to pivot, they had to change, and they had to adapt. But a lot of people have been in the position where they can kind of come out of it. Especially as we're hopefully across everything at the time of recording, looking like we are in the position where we're going to be able to come out of what was a quite dicey year and a half. Obviously there's the new area, put it that way, that is very exciting for you, that I'm sure we'll get into in a minute. But what was the kind of like moment of like, okay, what was your plan out in that respect? What was your plan in that respect in regards to, okay, cool, we are now looking like we're actually coming out of lockdown, and it's actually, COVID is not really becoming the same problem that it was in regards to government reaction and locking down and that kind of thing. What was the, problem, I guess, or the first step for you in regards to, you actually moving forward in that respect?
Well, I think we'd always planned to expand the business because we, just one escape room wasn't really going to cut it, really. Plus, everybody always wanted to know when they could play again. So all our customers would be like, have you got any more rooms? Are you going to change it? Are you opening any more? So our plan was always to do that. So lockdown kind of provided us the time and space to find a property for us to move into in Salisbury that was bigger. Obviously, we could only plan as far ahead as the government restrictions allowed, really. So we always knew it was going to be May the 17th from the beginning of this year. So I think all of our COVID precautions are still in place over in Spectre, and hopefully it's going to be the rule of 6 and households, and again, so it will just be exactly how it was during the breaks in lockdown last year. But it is still concerning to us that people will still feel a bit of trepidation about being indoors, I think. And I think that people have a bit of trepidation about wearing masks for an entire hour, because that was another problem, is that people don't really want to wear a mask for that amount of time. So hopefully from June the 21st things are going to start getting easier.
We're free!
Hopefully, but you know, I'm still not quite believing the May the 17th date yet until there's a proper announcement about it. So, but it's all been building to expanding, and it has been for the last couple of years anyway, so it's not stopped our plans really, coronavirus. So
no, I mean, that's really glad. Yeah, I'm really glad to hear that, because you know, a lot of business owners have said to me, you know, they were obviously in the same position I was back in, you know, March last year, and they were like, oh, okay, so right, how do we still function as a business, basically? And you know, I think you're a key example of this, of you know, yes, the pandemic is a problem, but it's a problem in the respect to we can fix it, not as in a problem we can't overcome. I mean, was that a mindset that you, or a way you would tackle problems before the pandemic? Was that like something that you had beforehand, or was that something you've kind of developed through the pandemic specifically?
I think we had quite a fair attitude before the coronavirus hit, to be honest. I mean, we're quite chilled out people. I think you have to be positive no matter what. I think you can't just assume that it's all going to fail. You've got to look around you to see how you can diversify. You've got to make sure that people are still aware of you, so that doing the online game, for instance, that meant that we were still showing up on social media, that people were still visiting our website. I would do blogs, and I think obviously all the government helped with us as well, because we don't have any employees. So because we were small, we could weather it, and we will always be a little bit risk averse in that way, in that we don't want to commit ourselves too much, because you know, who knows what's going to happen in the future. But at the same time, you can't stagnate just in case either. So
yeah, I think it's one of those things where a lot of people are gonna have to like look at what they learned from COVID, and then be in the position where, right, okay, so there's going to be another problem. Maybe it's not as big as the pandemic, or maybe it's not, you know, COVID in specific, but there will be something similar, possibly on a smaller scale. You know, I had a similar example last week. My laptop decided it just wanted to die, right? Yep. So this is a quite large problem as a video production company, in that respect, you know. So it's one of those things where you're in a position where you've got to pivot, you've got to change. And I think, you know, what advice would you give to people who maybe started out in business, maybe were in, you know, started out in the pandemic, etc., to actually grow their business in that respect?
Oh, that's a tricky one. I think, listen, it depends what industry you're in, but you need to listen to what your customers are saying. You need to get as much experience as you can in your industry. So we play a lot of escape rooms ourselves, which is a really hard job, obviously. So we get to enjoy ourselves and play a lot of rooms. And I think you have to learn constantly. You can't just open up your doors one day and say, here it is, and hope that it's going to be like that for everlasting. You've always got to adapt, and marketing yourself, getting people to know that you exist and that you're a thing that they can come and do, or a service that they can experience. I think that's a really tricky thing to do. So to focus on getting people to know that you're there, listening to your customers, and evolving within your industry, making sure that you're a little bit step ahead, then I think that's what we would need to do. And I think that's what everyone needed to do. So that would be my advice.
Fab. 2 seconds. Let me just fix this technical problem. There's always a technical problem. Did I press record on this one? Let's find out.
Yes, you did.
Yes, I did. How good. Right, welcome back, ladies and gents. So we just had to like change every battery, GH5 battery, mic batteries, etc. So the question I was going to ask you before was, do you feel businesses should continue to market themselves? As a marketer, I'm sure you have a quite interesting opinion on this. That's why I asked.
I wouldn't say I was a marketer. I'm a journalist first.
Okay.
But I try and, it falls to me to do the marketing for the escape room. Do I think that people should still keep doing it?
Well, continue to do it through times, for example, because some people have said to me during lockdowns they're pulling back.
Okay.
They're like, I don't know about doing that, because they're not 100% sure whether marketing is necessarily the best thing to do during a time when you're not technically open or not technically able to operate.
Well, it's like I said a few minutes ago, people still need to know that you are there. I mean, you can fall down your Google search pages, you can not turn up in people's news feed on Facebook, you can sort of fall off the face of Twitter and Instagram, and you are no longer in people's minds, I think. You still have to keep trying to do something to let people know that you are still there, because they might assume that you've closed down in lockdown if you haven't been saying or doing anything.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think lockdown was quite a good opportunity to do something different, to actually change the narrative of a business. So if you're usually a restaurant that you can only do indoor food, the fact that post-lockdown sort of we're now allowed to eat outside, people have changed the way that they've marketed themselves and their business by adapting to be outside, or home deliveries, or shops that have gone online and gone into e-commerce rather than just selling out of a shop. So you have to keep changing, and you have to keep letting people know that you're there. Advertising can work, but by doing some really good marketing, if you've got good social media right, you've just got to keep going. I don't think you've got time to slow down in terms of marketing, really.
No, I mean, it's good to hear that others feel the same way, right? Because I always feel, am I saying this because I profit off it, right? Because in some ways I do, right? But for me, I think it's really important, whether I profit off it or not, and this is always not necessarily about me wanting to get hired. Okay, great, if you want to hire me, fab, do it. But it's also about, there's so much you can do on your phone, there's so much you can do to let people know that you basically haven't gone out of business, right? I think that was the key thing in lockdown was, guys, look, we're actually going to come back, and we're going to come back, and this is the new things that are coming back, and this is the new stuff that is going to come back. And I think it's really important to be able to showcase that and be able to and to be able to share that. I mean, we were just talking while we were fixing batteries about, some of the other stuff that you guys would potentially be doing in the new unit. Do you want to sort of, you don't have to say what it is specifically, but do you want to hint at it a little bit?
Well, of course. I would be marketing myself if I didn't do that. So, in the Cross Keys, I think what Charlie and I had been hoping for the last 2 years, and we've been looking for the perfect building in Salisbury, and there was no way that we wanted to move out of Salisbury because we really, really love the city. And we've gotten to know lots of really nice people, such as village atmosphere for a city, to be honest.
Smallsbury being Smallsbury.
So one of our new games is called the Smallsbury Toy Company.
Oh, I love it.
In the new unit. But we wanted to give people more to do here. I think one of the big things about the city, and especially now that so many shops are closing down and the high street isn't as popular as it was.
Bustling.
We want to bring people to the city to do something that isn't just getting your nails done, having a cup of coffee, going to the pub. We wanted to expand the escape rooms business so more people could come in, more people could share their experiences, more people had a reason to come into the city. They could go to the cathedral, come and play the escape rooms, go out for dinner, go up to Stonehenge the next day after staying overnight in one of the hotels. They could actually make it a destination rather than just somewhere that you pop in to get your nails done. And we just thought that Salisbury really needs something else to do, more to do. but we wanted the right building to do it in. We didn't just want to take an industrial unit on the outside of town. We wanted something with a bit of history, a bit of interest, a bit of intrigue, something that was old, because we love old buildings. The unit downstairs is 14th century. It's got exposed beams, timbers, a lot of history to it. And as soon as we saw it, we were like, this is the place. This is somewhere that people in Salisbury already know about, already curious about. We just wanted to bring a bit of entertainment down to the Cross Keys and into the city, really. So we're building more escape rooms. We're actually introducing a tabletop game, which is basically an escape room in boxes, where you can sit in our medieval experience downstairs, play escape room type puzzles, but at a table. People will be able to enjoy a glass of mead or a glass of wine while they're playing it. So we're getting the licence. There's just going to be loads of different things to do there, really, to get more people in, to get more companies to come and experience the team building aspects of escape rooms. So now we can offer up to 50 people at once from a company to play things together, rather than just 8 people in one space. We can expand properly and just give a real experience and taste of what the building is like, what Salisbury's like, and the kind of things that you can do in Salisbury.
And for me, I think it's one of those things I've always tried to support local places and local things. And I think putting an escape rooms where you're planning to put it is perfect because of where it is and how it feels, And for me, after you told me about the new unit, I was like, oh my god, that's amazing, because it's like I can just see it working really, really well in where it is, how it is, and also the fact it's like right in the middle of the city. So it's ideally it's going to bring people into the city, which is exactly what when restrictions allow, of course, that's exactly what the city is going to need. So I think for me it's going to be really, really interesting to follow your journey through where we're at the moment, which as far as I'm aware is an empty unit, and into then creating it into this new entertainment kind of centre. And I think partly it will also in some ways or could become a community hub of some description as well, just because of firstly where it is, but also then secondly the fact that it's bar-esque in that respect as well. And I know that's not the main emphasis, but there's that more social element. I mean, are you looking to have more of a social element to it, or is it solely just an entertainment venue? There's no wrong answer here. You may not have thought of it necessarily.
Well, we're kind of keeping it fluid at the moment, to be honest, because we've definitely got 3 games that are already planned that are going in. Yeah. So we've got one tabletop game which we could expand to 3, 5, 6 tabletop games. We've got another escape room experience downstairs, got one on the first floor, but we've also got a whole top space, which was the 3rd floor of the old restaurant, that is absolutely beautiful with exposed beams and vaulted ceiling. At the moment, we're deciding whether or not to make it an escape room or to have it as a kind of community, kind of entertaining space where if corporate teams, for instance, wanted to have their meeting in the morning, a buffet or whatever in the afternoon, and then after lunch play all of the escape rooms, and to have that building exclusively for them, then they can do that. And also we'd also like to host Chamber of Commerce meetings there, for instance, so hopefully we'll be able to have a social evening with all the local businesses. We work with Salisbury Hospice as well, so it would be great to have some kind of charity fundraiser there, perhaps people playing the games, doing a leaderboard, maybe raising money that way. There's so much scope for it, and that building is kind of knowing what's best and how we can use it.
Yeah.
We definitely know there's 3 escape rooms plus table games in there, plus what we've got on Castle Street already. But that very top floor, we're currently undecided what to do with it. We're going to see how the land lies, really. So it's good that we've got so much space that we can.
Yeah, it can evolve, it can change, it can move with the feelings that you have at the time. I mean, that was going to be my follow-on question, was going to be great, you've got this new unit in Cross Keys, but what's happening to the old unit? Is that still staying the same? Is that still operating?
The lease Yeah, we'll operate until the lease ends, which is the end of next year. So that was a 6-year lease. So as soon as that finishes, then all of our focus, even more of our focus, is going to be over here. Because obviously it doesn't make sense to have 2 locations in the city.
Yeah, of course.
And this one is so much better than the one on Castle Street. Everybody will see that. So yeah, this is going up a notch for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely upping what you're doing and how you're doing it. And I think the main thing for people listening to this is going to be to see, as I say, follow that journey. I mean, what are your plans from a content creation perspective or a marketing perspective to help people see that journey? In that respect, because I think for me that would be the main thing, that if it's going to do what you both want it to do, that's going to be what I think, in my opinion, you need to do to make sure that people know what there is to expect. Things like this, for example, and that's why I suggested, possibly coming on and talking about it, is because it's going to allow people to understand what your vision is. So what other, I guess the question there is, what other stuff do you have planned, if any?
Well, I have plans to obviously, because I'm obviously a journalist first. I know quite a few of the local media people, if you like, the local reporters, the Salisbury Journal, articles in there as often as I possibly can. Whenever we do a new launch, even as soon as we've started moving into the old building, I'm going to be blogging basically, doing befores and afters, showing people what it looks like now compared to what it's going to be. It's going to be a pretty wild transformation, really. So we're going from old tea rooms to medieval, so there's going to be a lot of theming. But social media updates, as much as I possibly can, with local people like yourself. We've got some good leaflets everywhere. We do local advertising. We're on Visit Wiltshire. We go networking, or I go networking as much as we possibly can, because there's only 2 of us, and one's always building new games. I'm the one that's out and about trying to talk to everybody and letting everybody know that we're here. And building our Google presence, that's probably one of the biggest things that we've got to do, and hopefully now with such a big presence in the town physically, that will come a little bit more quickly than when it did just over in Castle Street.
Yeah, I think as I say, and I think the reason why I asked you that is because for business owners who are necessarily, looking how do they up what they're doing marketing wise, I mean, a lot of what you discussed there is marketing, is PR, is building relationships with local business and local press to help, especially in a city like Salisbury, where you want that community effort to kind of work for you. A key example for me is the Showcase series. The Showcase series is something that's very community driven in that respect, and I'm arguably quite known for it in that respect. So I think it's one of those things where, as long as you can continue that momentum and get that kind of consistency, even if it's just like, people think whenever I say this, they think, oh, you need to get me in to do a promotional video, you need to get me in to do this. I'm not saying get me in to do it necessarily. If you want to do that, great, but you can simply just take a photo before, then you rip out the shot, do whatever you're going to do, then take another photo from the same place. Because people can already see the transition that you've made, and it's about, for me anyway, it's about telling that story in the best way you can. Sometimes that may be bringing in someone like myself, sometimes that may not. There's 1,000 different challenges that come along with doing videos or doing this that may be logistically or budgetarily challenging. So, for people who are listening to this, what would you, from your own experience, because I know that you were doing some bits of content creation, for example, when the sign came in the other day when I popped down and see you, what suggestions would you have to people who are looking to start creating their own content, whether that's photo, whether that's blogging, whether that's videos, whether that's a mix of all the above?
I think one of the most interesting things that we've seen over the last 4 years is that when it's with your social media posts, for instance, where you can learn from what those tell you, in that when I post something that we've been doing, or if I've got a picture of Charlie building something, or a video of something actually happening, something being created, the amount of reaction and reach that we get from people personally being interested and following what we're doing, rather than just saying, we've got 50% off this weekend. People are interested in people, and people are interested in what you're up to. People like sneaky peeks of things, people like countdowns to things, people like expectation. And it's really hard to come up with new angles and new ways of promoting yourself, whether that's in a blog or whether that's on a social media post. But I would say always focus on yourselves. I know that sounds quite selfish and it's really odd to think in that way. But people are interested in people more than anything else. They're not interested necessarily in what promotion you've got going on or who you're working with. They want to know the people, and especially as we're people-facing professionals, it's important to get on with everybody. And as soon as people meet us and know us from the escape rooms, they have a fascination about it, and they're just nosy. I think people are nosy generally, and journalists are nosy, so everybody always wants to know
what's going on there?
What business is going on.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's a really good idea in terms of any of your social media and in terms of blogs and video. Don't just make it a piece to camera about, I don't know, the new poster in the window.
Here's how to triple your revenue in the next 3 months.
Yeah, just try and think out of the box a little bit. Try and think about what it is would make you stop and read something or watch a video. I think people first, and human interest is always first in terms of marketing. People want to know all of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree, and I think it's one of those things where people connect with people. Right? Like, I'm not going to buy from you if I don't know, like, and trust you. We talk about this a lot in marketing. There's no like and trust. Where is the people you know on that scale, right? And there's no simple like, okay, they go from they know me to they like me, because you may not like me. I don't know, right? But then how do I know when you transition to trust? I don't know. I have no idea. But we have an idea of where roughly on the scale you are. So then we know whether you're likely to be a customer or likely to become a client. Because to be honest, now more than ever, you're not going to buy from someone who you don't trust. It's simple as that. You're just not. So for me, it's really important to understand that firstly, but then also understand what value you're adding. So in your case, maybe it's we can help get your team together after so long, for example, or we're helping build that sense of team and sense of fun and this is not. Well, I don't want to speak for you, but for me, it wouldn't be this is a corporate environment where we talk about work. This is to get to know the person who's doing the accounts, the person who's editing the video, the person who's going to be filming alongside you, in my case perhaps. And in a situation where you are able to build that community and team and that spirit in your team is really important. And I with the team I work with, to go out of my way to make sure that I'm open and transparent and I'm honest with my team, because there's no point in me saying, yeah, things are great if they're not, because that is going to, because they want, I would hope anyway, they would want the same level of success for the company that I do, because it monetarily and exposure and everything, they benefit if the company does better.
Exactly.
But you're not going to know that and not going to build that trust if you don't have situations like your escape room or etc., and you don't put yourselves in more, I guess, casual settings to do that. I mean, have you found that the teams you have had in have become a lot more close knit, in that respect from previously?
Well, I'd like to think so. Unfortunately, we can't sort of watch them as they leave or see them.
Did you enjoy it?
or see them the day after or the week after to see if they fell out or not while they were playing the game. Sometimes people can fall out as much as they can get on sometimes, especially when you're mingling departments. But we have a lot of army groups, for instance, that come and play at Spectre and that we're hoping to welcome at Cross Keys. And it's always fascinating to watch soldiers or cadets that haven't really worked together yet, especially the young ones. And I think an escape room is the perfect place to do it, because you're up against a clock, you're all faced with things that you're not familiar with, and if you don't work together, then you won't win, because you can't win if you don't work together in an escape room because of that time frame, that time limit. And mostly we have a lot of laughter, and I think that's the thing. I think when people bond together in a work environment, when they can actually have that casual time where they're not being tested necessarily, well they are, but they're being tested in a fun way.
Yeah, that's not monetarily tied to whether they have their job or not, for example.
Yeah, the thing is, a lot of the time the quietest person in an office who doesn't say very much, or doesn't put their hand up, or might be a little bit afraid to, in an escape room, it's usually those people that are right about things. It's normally the person that shouts the loudest that actually isn't correct. Sometimes it's better to listen to the people that you work with, even if they are a bit quiet, because they might often have the best ideas. And in an escape room, that's just one of the things that really, really kind of shocked us when we were watching, really. The way that people interact with each other. It's a bit like a psychology experiment, really.
Yeah.
Being a games master.
What happens if you lock 8 people in a room? Find out if they kill themselves.
It's great.
Or not.
A lot of the time they don't know what their head
Or strangle each other, or so on.
But there hasn't really been any
Or whether they fall in love and they love the team all the more.
blind dates. So we've had people come in and have their first date in an escape room. Can you imagine meeting online and then just meeting at an escape room for the first time and then having to try and...
Well, it's one way to find out whether you're going to get on with the person, I suppose.
Some people think living together is that test, but you could probably do it in an hour in an escape room.
I mean, I think there's a lot of parallels, right? Like, there's a lot of parallels in the challenges of getting out of an escape room that will be aligned in business or personal or in their house or etc. So I think as a catalyst, especially in like a personal relationship, it would be probably a really good idea actually for people before they move in or before they go on a holiday with someone, especially if they're romantically involved, to go into a room and be locked in the room to fix a problem, because you're gonna, you can, I think for me anyway, you would learn a lot about that person. I think you would learn a lot more about who they are, because who we are when we're stressed and who we are when we have to problem solve is very different in the sometimes the persona in which we give over in a more professional context or a more I have to be seen a specific way context in that respect.
Your guard comes down and you don't realise, when you're put into that sort of position, you're reactive rather than you don't have time to think about how you're acting sometimes.
Yeah, because you're so focused on, okay, this is the problem that we're trying to resolve here, and also I think it develops your problem solving skills as well, right? Because if you can get out of an escape room as a team, the corporate problems you run into as a team probably aren't going to be, maybe they'll be similar, but they're not going to be as challenging, because you've just, so it's also that element as well, I think is really important. But, I think for me, it's always going to be interesting to see where the Cross Keys unit goes and see where that kind of goes and see how that develops, because I think for me, again, I don't know, but I think the ideas you have now are actually going to be completely different when it comes to actually installing it and building it. Some of the core ones will stay, the room, etc., but I think some of the nuances will change. Do you think, or do you think it will be this? Do you think you're kind of set on the way that you're going?
Well, we've had to be quite set in the way that we're going, so that we can get it built and ready in time to go in to start making some money. Because the clock will start ticking very soon, and we've had the one game for the first floor in the planning for about 3 years now, and most of it's already built. So there's no way that is going to change, and that'll probably stay for many years on the first floor because it's built to be that way. Downstairs, we just want to create a medieval experience. So we want to take the building that we already have, that already has these beautiful bones, and put some medieval into it. Wall sconces and medieval music and medieval props. Just basically take it back to what it was when it was the plume of feathers back in the 14th century. So we want to reawaken the building, really. By putting lots of fun things to do in it, like ghost hunting and escape rooms, and to leave that top floor free so that people can have the pleasure of being there all day, experiencing all of it. So maybe we are being quite stubborn and sticking to our original plan.
There's nothing wrong with that.
But we think it's a good plan.
Yeah.
So, and we've learnt a lot from playing all the escape rooms and having our room over on Castle Street, to the point where we think we know what we want to do differently and what we want to give to people in Salisbury. We don't just want to be a run-of-the-mill escape room game anymore. We want to bring a different experience. So that's our plan and we're sticking to it.
Well, best of luck. Thank you ever so much for joining me and dealing with the entire battery issues that we ran into.
That's fine.
That's life. Where can people find you that would be interested in hearing more about the escape rooms, seeing the journey, seeing your blog perhaps, reaching out to when you actually have a space to go into, they want to bring their corporate team in? Where can people find out that information?
Okay, so all of the information is on our website at live-escape.co.uk. You can Google us, Life Escape Room Salisbury, or we're going to be in the Cross Keys for the next few months fitting out. So if you're in the city, just have a little stroll along and we'll be around if you want to come and chat to us face to face. Because we always like to talk to people face to face. We're on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. We're easy to find.
Fabulous. Love it. Thanks
Thanks,
so much.
Alison. Thank you.
Job done. If you did enjoy this video and you would like to see anything that's happening with these escape rooms, make sure to check the description. I'll link as much as I can. And yeah, thank you for coming back. And I'll see you very, very soon.